AP, let's head on over to the hotline and let's bring in KVIA's very own sports anchor and reporter, Miss Rachel Phillips. Rachel, thanks for hopping on today. I know it's busy season, but really appreciate you taking the time today to hop on with us.
No, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here as always.
Absolutely. Now, we had you on last year, so you've got a full season of Texas high school football under your belt. But for those of you that don't remember, give us a little bit of an elevator pitch into who you are and how you got into El Paso.
Yeah, so I obviously from Australia, if you couldn't tell by the accent. I think it is. I was just talking with some people in the newsroom and I was like, is it dwindling at all? And they were like, no, it still sounds very Australian. So thankfully, I've still got that going for me. Yeah, grew up there, went to ASU, got my master's in sports journalism. And when I was finishing up there, I kind of just thought, why not apply for jobs in the US, and got a job here in El Paso, first job out of school. Started news, and then I've been in the sports job now for about a year, or just over a year now. So yeah.
Now, you don't only cover El Paso high school football, but you dabble in a little bit of New Mexico high school football. So what's that like, kind of covering both at the same time?
It's busy. It is very busy.
Sure.
I will say that. New Mexico love to do a Saturday morning football game, which internally hurts me because obviously we have the Friday night football show, and then on Saturday morning I've got to be driving 45 minutes to Las Cruces to go get their last game. But no, it's fun. I mean, you just get more and more football, and who doesn't love football at this point? And then it's also cool because, I mean, right now with non-conference play, we had just last week, we had Eastwood taking on Las Cruces here in El Paso, which is always fun. And that kind of brings it's kind of like the high school version of the Battle of I-10. So you get a bit of high school college vibes.
You can give New Mexico a little bit of taste of what Texas high school football is really about, right?
Yeah, which is it's a big taste. So they certainly, I mean, unfortunately last week, Las Cruces, there was a tough one for them against Eastwood because Eastwood, as we know, is just a powerhouse.
Right, exactly. Now, kind of speaking to that a little bit, let's take a look back at week 2. Were there any surprises that you've seen to kind of kick off this season? I know a lot of these teams have already started playing each other. We've seen El Paso Pebble Hills taking on Canutillo. That always seems to be a popular matchup. But kind of looking back at the last couple weeks, has there been any surprises that you have seen or want to enlighten people on?
Yeah, I think there's been a few. I mean, I think everyone kind of expected Pebble Hills to come in here and just be unstoppable this year. And look, they've won both their games, but they haven't been as dominant as what I think people are expecting. So it's been interesting to see, like, that Canutillo game. I was at it, and it was a winning field goal in the last 2 seconds of the game. That's how they won that game against Canutillo. And I think that shocked a lot of people, especially because Canutillo obviously lost LJ Martin last year, who's just, I mean, a standout player. You can't ever replace a guy like that. So for that game to kind of go down to the wire as it did, and then they played Del Valle last week, and it was 5-0 at halftime. And I fully anticipated that scoreline at halftime to be Pebble Hills winning, and winning by a lot, but both of them having a lot of touchdowns on the board. And it was, neither of them had scored a touchdown. It was just kind of like, what on earth? And obviously Pebble Hills, worked into that game and ended up coming away with a pretty solid win. But I think everyone expected them to be a lot more dominant. I think we'll just kind of see them work into the season and kind of build that dominance over the season. Some other ones which have been cool, Coronado, second year under Mike Pride, they're looking a lot stronger than what they did last year, which is just nice to see when a new coach is kind of coming in to have that effect. You can see how 1 year's really helped build them up and make them a better team. And then Hanks, they're 2-0 right now under Scott Belize, who's a new head coach, and worked a lot kind of around where you guys are. And that family obviously has a really strong coaching history, but to see him come in and kind of help change the culture of Hanks High School and see them start 2-0 has been really cool too.
And there's been a couple of teams, like you just mentioned, that are off to hot 2-0 starts, have won every game this season so far. And there's quite a few teams that do make quite a bit of noise in especially the playoffs. Do you see a team that has the opportunity, you think, early on to maybe make a pretty deep playoff push so far?
Yeah, I think our strongest teams kind of in the city would have to be Pebble Hills, Eastwood, and Canutillo. And they're all teams that were in the playoffs last year as well. And so they have that experience underneath their belt now. And a lot of them are kind of senior loaded. So those guys went in there last year, got heartbroken in their losses. All of them lost by 1 score or less. So it was like very close games that they lost in. And I know that's kind of been driving them all off season, as it does so many teams, and kind of into this first part of the season. So I would expect those 3 teams to all be in playoffs again this season and make a deep run. It's just kind of how far can they go with matching it with, the Dallas area schools, because it's a different level of football. We saw it last year when you got there to the playoffs, and these kids know it, so they want to work and get there and be able to match it with them. It's just how much can they go.
It seems like for the past couple of years, we've been able to look at the El Paso region as a whole and point out a couple of different players. You mentioned LJ Martin was clearly one of them, that it's like, oh yeah, there's the marquee name to know out there. A lot of those kids have graduated at this point. Who should we be keeping our eye on, and who do you think is going to emerge as maybe that next marquee player out of the El Paso region?
Yeah, we've got a lot of seniors who are really showing out this year. I mean, Shea Smith at quarterback for Franklin, he's really great. His dad used to play in the NFL, so he's a kid that he's got some D1 offers, and I think he'll build into the season and have a really great senior campaign. And then, I mean, kids that you're going to be hearing about for years now are Eldorado's guy, and then also Chapin's guy. Both of them, they're both sophomores this year. They already have D1 offers. You got Davian Singleton out of Chapin, and yeah, they're both studs. They're both kind of been in and out of the roster both these first 2 weeks. I know Davion was injured last week, but the two of them already have multiple D1 offers, so you just know that, like, they're sophomores. They got offers as freshmen. They're both starting. I mean, they're kids you're going to be hearing about for years. Ryan Estrada is the guy from Eldorado. I was blanking on his name, but the two of them have been so dominant. Ryan missed week 1 of football, and then in the second week he scored a touchdown, first drive of the game, first touch of the ball. So it's just like those kids, you can just watch them on the field. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. You're going to be hearing their names for a while.
Yeah, the talent in the El Paso region this year just seems like it's on a different level. But let's switch gears here a little bit and talk about the Miners. UTEP heading into this weekend as 1.5-point favorites over a Power 5 school. What are your thoughts on this?
Can you believe you're even saying that?
No, I can't, and I'm so excited for them. What are your thoughts heading into this weekend against Northwestern?
I am scared to hear that because I hate when this team is favorites because they just seem to not do well when they're favorites. That's my internal fear for them. But no, I mean, it's so exciting for the program. I had head coach Dana Dimmelin here on Monday, and I told him that if they get this win, it'll be the first time they've beaten a Power 5 team in the modern era. And he said that sent shivers up his spine. He was just like, wow, that's crazy. They beat Ole Miss in 1967. That's the only Power 5 team they've ever beaten, but that was kind of before Power 5 was even a term. So if you want, they're either 1-57 versus Power 5 opponents, or they're never beaten a Power 5 team in the modern era. So it's really kind of wild that this is a possibility for them. And I mean, I think it's probably the best opportunity they're going to have for a while to beat a Power 5 team. I mean, Northwestern is not a good team, if we're being honest. They've lost the last 12 straight in a row, but they did bring in a lot of transfers, this off season. And I think that's kind of, once that team can click, maybe they'll start to get some wins. And I have that fear internally that they're going to snap the losing streak against UTEP this week. But I think, if UTEP go in and play the way they did against Incarnate Word, and really the O-line puts up a strong performance, allows the running backs to kind of make some yards again and get things going. And if Gavin Hardison can complete, if he can complete above 60%, they got a really good chance. So they just got to go in there and pretty much play the same way they played against Incarnate Word. Obviously, game plan's a little different, but if they can play to that level, then I think they've got a really good shot. But they are a shocking road team. Their record on the road is just... That's the scary thing when you talk about this. Yeah. They only won one game on the road last year. They also only won back-to-back times once last year. So it's just the odds, their stats usually doesn't align with this being a win for them, but it should be a win, I guess is the way to put it.
Definitely.
Now, usually we end this by asking, if we come visit you, where should we eat? But I don't need that question answered. What I need answered is how is L&J's doing? Are we still at elite form? Is it still as great as I remember it in my brain?
It is still phenomenal. When people come to town, I swap between there and Leo's. Both of them are just phenomenal.
Okay, I don't think I've been to Leo's.
I can never decide where to take people, so I usually just say the names and let them pick because they're both so great.
Yum.
Yeah, Leo's, that's a good one. I know we went to Carlos and Mickey's one time, and then we went
that's
to
also good.
L&J's, but I don't think I've ever been to Leo's, so that's definitely okay. Well, now we have a total reason to come visit you. Perfect.
There you
exactly,
go. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't think you can go wrong, though, is the issue here. There's too much.
No, not at all. Well, Rachel, lastly, before we go, where are you heading this week?
Tonight I'm going to the Sun Bowl, actually. We've got the Battle of the West Side,
nice.
Franklin and Coronado, so that'll be a fun one. It's always cool when those kids get to play inside a D1, football stadium. And they pack it out because it's so close to both their schools. So that'll be a fun one tonight. And then tomorrow, I know I'm anchoring out from Canutillo for their game against Austin. And honestly, I do not know where I'm going after that yet. I'll probably hit up at least 1 or 2 more games, but I haven't looked that far ahead yet.
You're not going up to Northwestern?
Totally
too far of a drive.
We've got some interesting bosses here who don't like to fork out that much money, unfortunately. I would love to go up there.
That's awesome. Well, Rachel, thanks so much for giving us the time today. I know you're super busy, and safe travels the rest of the season, and hopefully we can get around to El Paso at some point this year to come see you.
Sounds good, guys. Yeah, if you come on by, we'll take you to Leo's and L&J's on the same night.
Let's go.
Let's just do it right now.
Thanks, Rachel.
That's awesome. There she goes, Miss Rachel Phillips from KVI. You can follow her on Twitter at Rachel_KVIA, sports anchor and sports reporter out there in El Paso. And